The diplomatic chamber's emergency lights cast eerie blue shadows across floating dignitaries as Eliza Chen propelled herself toward the hull breach. The assassin, a Malorian extremist with mottled skin and bioluminescent markings, had vanished into the labyrinth of maintenance corridors after the failed attempt. Status report, Eliza demanded into her comm unit, her voice steady despite the zero-G gymnastics required to navigate between panicking alien ambassadors. Hull integrity at 67% and falling, replied the ship's AI in the maddeningly calm tone universal to artificial intelligences across the galaxy. Concord security protocols have initiated full quarantine measures. Which meant, Eliza knew, that the Concord security forces would sacrifice this entire section before risking further contamination. 17 species worth of paranoia had created a defense doctrine that prioritized the many over the few. Logical, perhaps, but distinctly lacking in human creativity. Ambassador Chen, came a gurgling voice from her left. High Admiral Zell Thorne of the Vexillian delegation extended 3 appendages in her direction, iridescent pupils contracting in what Eliza had learned was anxiety. Our security analysis indicates the assassin carries a phase-shifting device. The Concord has no countermeasures for. With respect, Admiral, Eliza interrupted, tapping her wrist console. We'll handle this our way. The High Admiral's translucent membranes fluttered in alarm. What does this mean, our way? Eliza smiled tightly. It means improvisation. She pushed off from a floating refreshment table, calculated her trajectory with practiced ease, and caught a decorative ceremonial staff that had broken free from its display. The ancient artifact, a remnant from some long-dead civilization, hummed with dormant energy as her fingers wrapped around its metallic surface. Lieutenant Commander, the Concord security chief's voice crackled through the emergency channel. Our scans indicate the assassin is moving toward the station's central power nexus. Containment protocols dictate. Belay that, Eliza cut in, adjusting her course with a precise burst from her suit's maneuvering thrusters. I'm in pursuit. The security fee in her helmet displayed the bewildered expressions of 17 species representatives as they watched this human. This newcomer to the galactic community disregard centuries of established crisis protocols. Eliza pushed through the maintenance access hatch, following the faint energy signature of the phase-shifting device. The assassin had clearly expected the Concord's by-the-book response: evacuation, containment, sacrifice of the compromised section. Standard procedure for species who had evolved beyond unpredictability. The corridor had flickered with unstable light as the assassin's device warped local spacitime. Dangerous, yes, but also a beacon for anyone willing to look beyond established threat assessments. I've got a visual, Eliza reported, her voice echoing through the diplomatic channel she deliberately left open. Let them all hear what humanity brought to the table. And I'm proceeding with capture. Capture, came the incredulous response from several species simultaneously. The protocol is neutralization. The ceremonial staff in her hands grew warmer as she approached the phase distortion. Something about its composition was reacting to the assassin's technology, an unexpected interaction between ancient craftsmanship and modern desperation. Sometimes, Eliza whispered, more to herself than the listening dignitaries, the oldest solutions work best for the newest problems. She rounded the final corner, the staff now glowing with accumulated energy, a perfect conductor for the phase distortions saturating the corridor. The assassin turned, mandibles clicking in surprise at the human who had managed to follow. Eliza's lips curved into the smile that would soon become infamous across 17 worlds. Witness this. Security drones encircled Dr. Marcus Okafor as the Gelthori diplomat's neural readings stabilized for the first time in 7 months. The chamber buzzed with urgent whispers as Thoraxian medical officers consulted their ancient protocols, their elongated fingers frantically scrolling through data displays. Human, the head physician Morven Thal addressed Marcus, his voice modulated to express maximum authority. You have violated 17 separate provisions of the Concord Medical Code. Your procedures were unauthorized, untested, and successful. Marcus finished, not looking up from his patient's monitors. Perhaps we should address the ethics violations after we've ensured the ambassador's continued recovery. The Thoraxians' breathing slits flared in what Marcus had learned was their species' expression of indignation. 7,000 years of unquestioned medical authority did not prepare them for human directness. The Gelfori neural structure is documented across 63,000 case studies. Morventhal continued, gesturing toward the holographic displays surrounding the bed. Recovery was deemed statistically impossible. Your intervention has contaminated valuable decline data. Marcus finally looked up, dark eyes reflecting the blue glow of medical scanners. Is that how you see patients? As data points? The room fell silent. Even the junior Thoraxian physicians stopped their frantic consultations. Our observational approach has advanced medical science for millennia, Morventhal stated, his tone suggesting the matter was beyond dispute. We do not interfere with natural processes. We document, we learn, we improve our understanding. And the patient dies while you take notes, Marcus said quietly. Turning back to adjust the neural interface he'd grafted to the Gelfori's central nervous system. The device, cobbled together from standard human medical technology and salvaged Concord components, pulsed with gentle light as it continued stimulating neural regeneration. Ambassador Trollven's body shuddered slightly, the first voluntary movement in months. The Gelfori's 6 eyes began to focus, pupil membranes contracting in response to the light. "Impossible," whispered one of the junior Thoraxians, immediately silenced by a gesture from Morventhal. Marcus leaned closer to his patient. "Ambassador, if you can understand me, blink your central eyes twice." The chamber held its collective breath as the Gelfori's central pair of eyes closed deliberately, then opened, then closed and opened again. Consciousness intact, Marcus noted, ignoring the security drums still hovering near his shoulders. Motor control beginning to return to peripheral systems. The Gelfori's mouthparts moved slowly, forming sounds that the translator struggled to process. Finally, a raspy voice emerged. "How long?" 7 months, Ambassador, Marcus replied gently. "You suffered severe neural trauma during the diplomatic incident at Ta City. The Concord Medical Authority classified your condition as terminal." The ambassador's breathing quickened. "Yet, I live." "Yes," Marcus said, shooting a pointed look at Morventhal. "Despite protocols." The security drones moved closer as Morventhal's agitation became more apparent. "This patient was assigned to you for observation, not intervention. Your species' position within the Concord remains provisional." This breach off. He was interrupted by a weak motion from the ambassador. The Gelfori raised one trembling limb, gesturing toward the security drones. "Stand down," the ambassador managed. "This human. Say what your protocols." "Abandoned." Marcus suppressed a smile as he adjusted the neural interface's output. "The treatment isn't finished, Ambassador. We've merely kick-started your natural regeneration processes. The interface is teaching your neural network to rebuild itself." "Impossible technology," Morventhal insisted. "No species has successfully merged synthetic interfaces with organic neural tissue at this level." "No species tried," Marcus corrected, checking the ambassador's vitals. "You were all too busy documenting failure instead of risking innovation." The ambassador's mouthparts curved in what Marcus recognized as the Gelfori equivalent of a smile. "Your people's reputation precedes you, Doctor. The phrase you used before you began. What was it?" Marcus met the ambassador's gaze. "Witness this." Captain Maizong stood in Proxima Centauri Way Station's shuddering control center, watching as the quantum filament's energy signature tore through nearby space like luminescent lightning. Emergency klaxons wailed as structural integrity alarms competed with evacuation warnings. "Reactor containment failing," the station's AI reported dispassionately. Complete breach in 14 minutes, 7 seconds. On the main view screen, the Concorde rescue fleet maintained their position at the minimal safe distance of 10 light minutes away, following protocols perfected over millennia of space disasters. "Captain," her XO whispered, "the civilian evacuation is only at 37%. We'll lose over 4,000 people when the reactor goes." Mi's fingers danced across the emergency console, reviewing options that the Concorde contingency database had already deemed non-viable. Her eyes narrowed as she studied the quantum filament's behavior pattern. "It's not random," she murmured, ignoring the panicked communications from Concorde Command. "The filament is following subspace current patterns, like water flowing downhill." "Captain," with respect, her chief engineer interrupted. "What does that matter? We cannot stabilize the reactor. Concorde protocols are clear that." "Forget their protocols," Mi snapped. "They designed those for predictable failures. This is something else entirely." She gestured toward the science station, where the filament's trajectory was projected across local space. "The quantum distortion isn't just destroying, it's transforming energy signatures it encounters. Our reactor isn't simply failing, it's being converted." Comprehension dawned on the chief engineer's face. "You're suggesting we deliberately destabilize the reactor?" "Captain, that's our only option," Mi finished. She turned to the communications officer. "Patch me into the station-wide system." Taking a deep breath, she activated the channel. "Attention all Proxima Centauri personnel and civilians. This is Captain Zhang. Our situation has changed." Her voice remained steady, projecting a confidence she maintained through sheer will. "We are no longer evacuating. Instead, we're going to ride this quantum wave." She could almost feel the collective shock rippling through the station. "Engineering teams Alpha through Delta, report to reactor control. All materials fabrication units redirect to production of polarized radiation shielding. Civilian sectors begin converting living quarters according to emergency pattern Omega-3. Her officers stared in disbelief as she continued issuing orders that contradicted every disaster response protocol in Concorde history. "To everyone who can hear my voice, witness this." The next 13 minutes transformed Proxima Station into a hive of controlled chaos. Civilian fabricators repurposed food synthesizers to generate exotic particles that could temporarily shield organic tissue from quantum fluctuations. Engineering teams reconfigured the failing reactor, deliberately modifying its containment field to synchronize with, rather than resist, the approaching filament. Concorde fleet is demanding explanation, the communications officer reported, her voice strained. "They're threatening to revoke Earth's membership if we continue this unauthorized protocol deviation." Mi barely glanced up from the reactor schematics. "Tell them we're a little busy saving 4,000 lives their protocols would sacrifice." As the quantum filament engulfed the station, alarms screamed warnings never designed for this scenario. The structure groaned as reality itself seemed to bend around them. "Reactor synchronization at 93%. The chief engineer called out, his hands moving with precision across controls now functioning in ways their designers never intended. "Quantum harmonics, matching." The view screen flared with impossible light as the station's modified reactor engaged directly with the filament's energy pattern. For 3 terrifying seconds, reality itself seemed to splinter around them. Then, silence. The alarm ceased. The shuddering stopped. "Position," Mi demanded, rising from where the quantum transition had thrown her. The navigation officer checked her readings twice before answering. We're 17 light hours from our previous position, Captain. Exactly at the designated emergency rendezvous coordinates." Mi allowed herself a small smile as the stunned Concorde fleet appeared on long-range sensors, racing to investigate what their protocols had deemed impossible. "Status report," she ordered. "Station structural integrity at 89%. Her XO reported with something approaching awe. "Casualties, 27 injuries, no fatalities. Captain, We rode a quantum filament. The impossible circuit arena fell silent as Ibrahim Nassar stepped onto the starting platform. His exosuit, a patchwork of exposed circuitry and emergency welds, sparked visibly. In the competitor's bay, the other finalists watched with expressions ranging from pity to contempt. Human competitor Ibrahim Nassar has declined the standard postponement option. The announcer's voice echoed through the stadium. The translation algorithms struggled to convey the mixture of confusion and disbelief in the Tulif commentator's tone. He will attempt the final circuit with equipment that does not meet minimum safety parameters. In the VIP observation deck, the Concord Gaming Authority representatives huddled in urgent conference. This deviation from protocol threatened the carefully calibrated risk assessments that had governed the games for centuries. "This is unprecedented," the Vexillian commissioner hissed to her colleagues. "We must disqualify him for his own safety." The human ambassador leaned forward. "My colleague forgets that humanity's participation was explicitly granted with the understanding that our approaches might differ from established norms." On the arena floor, Ibrahim ran a final diagnostic on his mangled exosuit. The sabotage had been thorough. Primary power systems compromised. Targeting array damaged beyond repair, neural interface flickering between operational states. Any rational competitor would have withdrawn. 30 seconds to commencement, announced the automated system. Final safety confirmation required. Ibrahim engaged his helmet's privacy shield and smiled grimly at his reflection. The exosuit's heads-up display showed failure probabilities across every major system, none below 70%. "Perfect. Safety confirmation acknowledged," he responded, lowering the privacy shield. "I'm ready." The crowd's murmur grew as holographic displays showed close-ups of his damaged equipment. Vetting systems across 17 worlds crashed as unprecedented wagers poured in, most predicting spectacular failure, but a surprising number backing the human's inexplicable confidence. Ibrahim flexed his fingers, feeling the neural interface stutter. The targeting system threw random projections across his vision before failing entirely. He reached up and physically disconnected it, a violation of conventional exosuit operation protocols that sent another shockwave through the audience. "Beginning countdown," the system announced. 10, 9. Ibrahim closed his eyes briefly, visualizing the course ahead. Unlike his competitors, who relied on real-time targeting and power regulation, he had memorized every millimeter of the arena during qualifying rounds. 3, 2, 1. The starting tone sounded. Ibrahim launched forward, and immediately triggered a deliberate overload in his suit's left stabilizer. The resulting controlled explosion propelled him through the first obstacle gate, at twice the expected velocity, bypassing the initial targeting challenges entirely. The crowd gasped collectively as warning lights flashed across the official displays. His trajectory was deemed non-survivable by the safety systems, which attempted to deploy emergency field barriers. Too late, Ibrahim had already rolled through the disruption, using the momentum from his controlled failure to slingshot past the second challenge point. "The human competitor has, this cannot be correct," the announcer stammered. "He has completed the first sector 17 seconds faster than any recorded attempt." In the competitor's bay, the Tulif champion, favored to win by every prediction algorithm, blinked all four eyes in rapid succession. "He's using the failures as advantages," he whispered. "How can one prepare against an opponent who weaponizes his own disadvantages?" Ibrahim reached the anti-gravity sector, where precision thrust control was essential for navigation. His damaged thrust system flickered, then failed completely. Exactly as he had anticipated. Instead of fighting it, he detached the entire module mid-flight and threw it ahead of him. The resulting explosion created a pressure wave that carried him through the zero-G maze like a leaf on the wind, a completely passive approach that the course designers had never considered possible. "This isn't competition," the Vexillian commissioner spluttered. "This is madness." The human ambassador smiled. "No, Commissioner. This is humanity. The Grand Chamber of the Concord Diplomatic Assembly fell into stunned silence as Ambassador Sophia Okonkwo completed her presentation. The Vexillian delegation's translator devices lay discarded on the polished table, still emitting occasional bursts of static, evidence of their deliberate manipulation exposed for all to witness. First Ambassador Kvex of the Vexillian Empire rose slowly, his vocal membranes vibrating with barely contained fury. When he spoke, his natural voice, not the smoothed translation, echoed harshly through the chamber. This performance violates every established protocol of interspecies communication, he hissed, subharmonics designed to induce anxiety rippling beneath his words. The human has weaponized our own biological communication methods against us. Sophia stood perfectly still, her expression neutral. She had spent 3 months studying Vexillian physiology and communication patterns, learning how their predatory ancestors had evolved sound as both weapon and tool. The small device in her hand, a modified human audio processor linked to a Vexillian harmonics generator, had given her the ability to speak directly in their language, bypassing the manipulated translation systems. The Concord diplomatic chief, a Tullif whose species prided themselves on absolute neutrality, leaned forward. Ambassador Okonkwo, while your linguistic accomplishment is impressive, First Ambassador Kvex raises a valid procedural concern. Direct communication without approved translation oversight has been prohibited since the Third Communication Crisis. Sophia nodded once. I understand the historical context, Chief Diplomat. However, I would direct your attention to Concord Charter, Section 117, Paragraph 9. When translation systems are compromised by technical failure or deliberate interference, representatives may utilize alternative communication methods to preserve diplomatic integrity. She gestured toward the still malfunctioning Vexillian translators. I submit that these devices constitute evidence of deliberate interference. The chamber erupted into multilingual chaos as delegates consulted their own translation systems, which suddenly seemed suspect to all present. The Vexillian delegation's junior members began backing away from their senior representatives, realizing the political fallout that was about to engulf them. Order, called the chief diplomat, activating the chamber's acoustic dampening field. When silence returned, he turned to the Vexillian first ambassador. The human's claims are serious. Our technical analysts are examining the translation records now. Kvex's inner eyelids flickered rapidly, a sign of extreme stress rarely seen in Vexillian diplomats. This examination is unnecessary. The human has no proof that. Actually, Sophia interrupted. Her voice now returned to standard diplomatic tones. Your own devices provided the proof. She nodded to her assistant, who activated a holographic display in the center of the chamber. The recording showed the Vexillian delegation's private communication channel, the feed they believed secure, displaying their explicit instructions to manipulate translation parameters during key negotiation points. More damning still were the comments about how humans lack the neurological capacity to detect subharmonic manipulation. How did you access this? Kvex demanded, abandoning all pretense of diplomatic decorum. This is a sovereign violation of. I didn't access anything, Sophia replied calmly. When your translators attempted to manipulate my statement's meaning, they synchronized with my device, which simply recorded what they were transmitting. Your own technology betrayed your methods. The chief diplomat's expression remained neutral, but his posture had shifted subtly toward Sophia. Ambassador Okonkwo, the Concord appreciates Earth's creative approach to linguistic integrity. In light of this evidence, I propose we continue these territorial negotiations with additional oversight protocols in place. Kvex slammed a clawed hand on the table. The Vexillian Empire withdraws its claim to the disputed territories, effective immediately. His glare at Sophia carried millennia of predatory intensity. But the human's methods will not be forgotten. Sophia inclined her head slightly. That was never my intention, First Ambassador. In fact, I hope all members of the Concord remember this day. She deactivated her device with a subtle gesture. After all, communication should reveal truth, not obscure it. As the chamber began to empty, the Gelthori representative, the same diplomat Dr. Marcus Okafor had saved months earlier, approached Sophia. That phrase you used before you began your presentation, it is becoming something of a human signature, is it not? Sophia smiled. Witness this. Yes, I suppose it is. The nexus of theoretical physics shook violently as quantum containment barriers failed in cascading sequence. Emergency evacuation protocols flashed across every display, while the facility's AI calmly announced the remaining time before catastrophic collapse. 3 minutes, 17 seconds. Dr. Raj Patel's fingers flew across the main control interface, ignoring the frantic warnings from security systems designed to prevent exactly what he was attempting. Behind him, the few remaining Tolif researchers watched in horror as he methodically dismantled safety protocols established over centuries. Human, senior researcher Zol Karim called out, his perfectly symmetrical features contorted in what passed for panic among the mathematically precise Tolif. You cannot reverse a quantum cascade. The paradox is fundamental. Attempting to stabilize it will only accelerate the collapse. Raj didn't look up from his work. That's because you're still thinking of it as a problem to solve rather than a pattern to complete. On the massive primary display, the hadrianic paradox manifested visually, a swirling vortex of quantum probabilities collapsing toward a singularity. 3 centuries of Concord science had established that such collapses were irreversible once begun. The containment chamber is approaching critical threshold, the facility AI announced. All personnel must evacuate immediately. Automated safety measures have been manually overridden. This violation will be reported to Concord Scientific Authority. Zol Karim took an uncertain step toward the exit, then paused. What do you mean, pattern to complete? The mathematics are explicit. The quantum state cannot be stabilized. Your mathematics are perfect, Raj agreed, finally looking up. His eyes reflected the swirling energies visible through the chamber's observation port. But your premise is flawed. You've been trying to restore equilibrium by suppressing the quantum fluctuations. Understanding dawned on the Tolif researcher's face. You're going to amplify them. That's madness. The exponential growth will create a self-sustaining loop. Raj finished, initiating the final sequence. The facility's warning lights shifted from urgent red to a deep, pulsing purple as the AI attempted to categorize the unprecedented procedure. If anyone's still watching, witness this. With a series of commands that violated every quantum handling protocol in the Concord Scientific Database, Raj redirected power from the facility's safety systems directly into the containment chamber. Rather than fighting the quantum collapse, he accelerated it along specific mathematical vectors. 60 seconds to catastrophic failure, the AI warned, its voice modulation revealing uncertainty not programmed into its responses. The observation chamber filled with blinding light as quantum energies reached theoretical maximum intensity. Zol Karim shielded his eyes with one hand while continuing to observe, the scientist in him unable to look away from what might be the last experiment in the facility's 300-year history. The vibration pattern, he whispered, suddenly noticing what Raj had identified hours earlier. It's not random chaos during collapse. It's seeking resonance. Raj nodded, making a final adjustment. Exactly. The paradox isn't a bug in the system. It's a feature. The quantum fluctuations aren't trying to break down into chaos. They're trying to organize into a higher-order pattern. They just needed a catalyst, Zol Karim breathed. A specific energy signature to complete the pattern. The quantum energies reached peak intensity, then suddenly, impossibly, stabilized. Where moments before chaos had reigned, now a perfectly symmetrical pattern of energy emerged, rotating in mesmerizing precision. Pattern completion achieved, the AI announced, its programming struggling to categorize the phenomenon. Unknown stable quantum configuration detected. Through the observation port, Reality itself seemed to fold inward, creating what appeared to be a tunnel of perfectly organized energy, a stable passage through space-time, where Concord science had deemed such stability impossible. Raj's shoulders relaxed slightly as the emergency alarms fell silent. It wasn't fighting us, he explained, gesturing toward the newly formed wormhole. It was trying to teach us. Zul-Karim approached the control panel slowly, his species' natural mathematical perception allowing him to appreciate the elegant solution in ways few others could. 3 centuries of Toloth calculation, and we never considered. He paused, looking at Raj with new understanding. How did you see what we could not? Raj smiled slightly. Sometimes you need to step back from perfect mathematics and just listen to what the universe is trying to tell you. The bridge of HSV Daedalus fell silent as Colonel James Rice terminated the connection with Concord High Command. The strategic display showed the advancing Scorathi fleet, 17 battle groups moving in perfect predatory formation toward the vulnerable colonial worlds. They've denied our request to engage, Lieutenant Commander Park reported unnecessarily. Everyone had heard the Concord Military Council's final verdict: maintain defensive positions, protect evacuation corridors, prepare for a protracted conflict. James studied the tactical projection, eyes narrowed. The Scorathi moved exactly as their evolutionary history suggested they would, like the ambush predators they had evolved from, setting elaborate traps designed to trigger predictable prey responses. The Council doesn't understand what we're facing, James said finally. The Scorathi aren't fighting a war. They're hunting. And the Concord's response is to behave exactly like predictable prey. Admiral Felev of the Andorian Defense Force appeared on the command screen. Colonel Rice, our sensors detect your battle group is powering weapons systems. The Concord Military Council has explicit orders. With respect, Admiral, Jane interrupted. Earth hasn't ratified those specific military protocols. Our treaty allows independent action when colonial worlds are threatened. The Admiral's antennae stiffened in alarm. You cannot seriously intend to engage the Scorathi alone. Their battle doctrine has remained undefeated for 12 centuries. Their targeting algorithms have been optimized through thousands of conflicts. James' smile was predatory. Exactly. They've spent millennia perfecting responses to known tactics, but they've never encountered humanity before. Turning away from the sputtering admiral, Jane opened a channel to the human fleet. All vessels, this is Colonel Rice. Our mission parameters have changed. The Concord has chosen a defensive posture, but we will not sacrifice colonial worlds while following outdated doctrine. Around the Daedalus, the 23 ships of the human battle group moved into communication range, their captains' faces appearing on the tactical display. The Scorathi rely on prediction algorithms based on thousands of years of consistent enemy behavior, Jane continued. Their entire strategy depends on us responding according to established patterns. A grim smile touched their lips. So we won't. The tactical officer looked up nervously. Colonel, what exactly are you proposing? Battle plan thesis, Jane replied, sending the classified tactical package to all human vessels. As the ship captains reviewed the unorthodox strategy, expressions ranged from shock to savage delight. This violates every principle of unified fleet engagement. Captain Chen of the Zhenghe objected. We'd be fragmenting our firepower, sacrificing coordinated defense. Exactly what the Scorathi won't expect, Captain Rodriguez of the Malinche cut in. I've studied their historical engagements. They've never faced an opponent who deliberately reduces their apparent combat effectiveness. Jay nodded. The Scorathi hunting instinct compels them to focus on the most dangerous prey first. By appearing to fragment and weaken, we become multiple lesser threats instead of one primary target. And then, asked Captain Okafor of the Patton. Then we remind them that humans evolved as persistence hunters, Jane replied. We didn't take down prey with superior strength or speed. We exhausted them, confused them, drove them to make mistakes. Broadcasting now on all command frequencies, Jane issued the order that would later be studied in military academies across the galaxy. All human vessels, battle plan thesis. Witness this. The human fleet broke formation in what appeared to be chaotic disarray. The Concorde observation vessels registered immediate alarm as the carefully coordinated defensive screen dissolved. Admiral Thelev's frantic communications went unanswered as the human ships scattered in seemingly random vectors. Aboard the Skorathi command vessel, Supreme Hunter Kavorn observed the tactical display with growing confusion. The prey was not behaving according to any known doctrine. The targeting algorithms, designed to prioritize the most dangerous opposition first, struggled to identify primary threats among the dispersing human vessels. They flee before engagement. Kavorn clicked to his battle strategists. Curious. The behavioral models suggested humans would fight most aggressively when defending colonial territories. His chief strategist's mandibles twitched uneasily. Not fleeing. Supreme Hunter. Their movement patterns do not match retreat algorithms. They appear to be hunting us. The Concorde assembly chamber descended into chaos as the holographic display showed another system, the third this week, vanishing under the Sentinel's systematic attack. Species representatives shouted over one another, their carefully maintained diplomatic protocols shattering under existential fear. The Tulif colonies must receive priority evacuation status, insisted the Tulif Prime logician. Our mathematical archives contain the accumulated knowledge of 17,000 years. The Vexillian genetic repositories take precedence, countered First Ambassador Kavex. Biological information cannot be backed up like your equations. From her position at the observer's platform, Admiral Chen Wei watched the disintegration of the Alliance with a calmness that unnerved even her human colleagues. 50 years of studying how humanity's adaptability both terrified and fascinated the Concorde species had given her unique insights into both their strengths and fatal weaknesses. Admiral Chen, the Concorde Supreme Coordinator, addressed her directly. The human colonies in the Epsilon sector remain surprisingly untouched by the Sentinels. Does Earth possess defensive capabilities it has not shared with the Concorde? The implied accusation silenced the chamber momentarily. Chen studied the ancient being, one of the founding species whose technological civilization predated Earth's by millennia. No, Coordinator, she replied evenly. But we've been analyzing the Sentinel attack pattern, and we've identified something the Concorde has missed. She approached the central platform without waiting for permission, a protocol violation that caused several species representatives to bristle visibly. Using her command override, Chen accessed the strategic display system. One last time, she announced to the chamber. Witness this. The holographic display shifted as Chen uploaded the human analysis. The three-dimensional representation of Concorde space transformed, now color-coded not by political boundaries or resource value, but by a metric the assembly had never considered. Technological predictability, Chen explained, gesturing to the vivid pattern now visible to all. The Sentinels aren't targeting random systems or even the most advanced ones. They're systematically eliminating civilizations in order of how predictable their technological development has been. The chamber erupted in denials and objections, but the evidence projected above them was irrefutable. Systems with the most established, stable technological patterns had been destroyed first, while those with more chaotic, innovative approaches remained untouched. The Sentinels were created to prevent the rise of technological stagnation. Chen continued, her voice cutting through the uproar. They don't fear advanced civilizations. They fear predictable ones. Understanding dawned gradually across alien faces as Chen highlighted the correlation between technological innovation patterns and Sentinel targeting priorities. This is why human colonies haven't been targeted yet, she explained. Our technological development appears random to their algorithms, our solutions unpredictable. You propose we abandon our proven methodologies. The Tulif representative asked incredulously. Centuries of refinement and optimization. No, Chen replied. I propose we combine them with human unpredictability. She uploaded a new tactical display, showing a revolutionary fleet structure with human vessels at the vanguard positions, supported by the specialized technologies of 17 species. The Sentinels expect us to respond with the same strategies that failed against them millennia ago, Chen explained. But they've never encountered humans before. We don't follow the logical optimization paths their algorithms are designed to counter. The Gelfori ambassador, whose life had been saved by human medical innovation years earlier, was the first to speak. You suggest we form a hybrid response. Human tactical innovations supported by our established technologies. Chen nodded. Exactly. The Concorde's technological stability provides the foundation, while human unpredictability creates the opportunities the Sentinels cannot anticipate. The Supreme Coordinator studied the proposed battle plan silently before turning to the Assembly. For 3,000 years, we have viewed human unpredictability as a potential threat to galactic stability. The ancient being's compound eyes fixed on Chen. Perhaps it is time we recognized it as our salvation.